Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the House State Government Committee meeting to order. Sonia, would you please take the roll?
Chair Hill Evans,
Here.
Representatives Boyd, Brennan, Davidson, Green, Genst, Howard, Inglis, Kenyatta, Probst, Sanchez, Schusterman, Waxman, Webster, Chair Roy,
Here.
Representatives Banta, Barger, Bonner, Brown,
By designation.
Diamond, Fink,
By designation.
Kozak,
By designation.
Shalaba,
By designation.
Schaefer, Walsh, Weeknecht. We have a quorum.
Having established the presence of a quorum, the committee is in order to proceed with business. We're going to go a little out of order here. We're going to call up first House Resolution 231 by Representative Benham. And she is with us this morning, so the mic is all yours.
Well, good morning, everyone. I would like to ask you all to vote yes on my resolution this morning, which establishes Pride Month for the year of 2025. I know that when we talk about LGBTQ plus folks, that there is a lot of partisan division on the issue of policy. But what I would hope we could all agree on is that when it comes to the lives of people, everyone, regardless of who they are, how they present themselves, or who they love, is a person who deserves respect and deserves to be viewed as valuable in their whole aspect as a human being. And so when we are talking about what LGBTQ people are experiencing in the world right now, I think what I hear from people, especially young people, is a lot of fear and a lot of concern that they're not seen as fully human. And so my hope with this resolution is that this would be something that can be voted yes for across the partisan divide, that we're acknowledging that regardless of who somebody is or who they love, they're a person who deserves our respect. And so regardless of where you are at on the policies that impact people like me, I would hope that you would vote yes on this resolution. Thank you.
Is there discussion? Okay. Seeing none, those in favor of reporting the resolution will vote aye. Are there any negative?
Yes.
They're going to be negative. Okay, Sonia, would you please call the roll?
Okay. Chair Hill Evans,
Yes.
Representatives Boyd,
Yes, designation.
Brennan,
Designation, yes.
Davidson,
Yes.
Green, Genst,
Designation, yes.
Howard,
Designation, yes.
Inglis,
Designation, yes.
Kenyatta, Probst, Sanchez,
Yes.
Schusterman,
Designation, yes.
Waxman,
Yes.
Webster,
Yes.
Chair Roy,
No.
Representatives Banta,
No.
Barger, Bonner, Brown,
No by designation.
Diamond, Fink,
No by designation.
Kozak,
No by designation.
Shalaba,
No by designation.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Walsh,
No.
Weeknecht.
No.
The motion passes.
Thank you, and thank you, Rep. Benham. So the resolution will be reported out of State Government Committee. Moving on, the chair calls up House Bill 784, printers number 805. Staff will read a your staff will read a summary of the bill, please.
Yep, right over here, Chairwoman.
I'm sorry?
House,
Scott's doing it up there
Oh,
right now.
okay. All right, very good. Thank you.
House Bill 784, sponsored by Representative Pickett, authorizes the transfer of easement interests within Project 70 lands owned by the Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission in Overfield Township, Wyoming County, to the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation.
Okay, is there discussion? Yes, Chair Roy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Pickett is not able to be here today, but she wanted to express gratitude that her, bill is being called up. It's just a pretty simple thing, and hopefully everybody can be yes on it.
Okay, is there any other discussion on the bill? Hearing none, those in favor of reporting the bill will vote yes. Those opposed, no. Sonia, will you please call the roll?
Chair Hill Evans,
Yes.
Representatives Boyd,
Designation yes.
Brennan,
Designation yes.
Davidson.
Yes.
Green. Genst,
Designation yes.
Howard,
Designation yes.
Inglis,
Designation yes.
Kenyatta. Probst. Sanchez,
Yes.
Schusterman,
Designation yes.
Waxman. Webster,
Yes.
Chair Roy,
Yes.
Representatives Banta. Barger. Bonner. Brown.
Yes by designation.
Diamond. Fink. Kozak.
Yes by designation.
Shalaba.
Yes by designation.
Schaefer. Walsh. Weeknight. The motion passes.
Thank you, and that bill will be reported. Next up, the chair calls up House Bill 862, printers number 899. Do you want your staff to read a summary of the bill, please?
That's also me, Chairwoman.
Okay.
House Bill 862, sponsored by Representative Owlett, authorizes the Department of General Services, with the approval of the Governor and the Department of Military and Veterans Affairs, to perform a land exchange with Tioga County.
Thank you. Is there discussion on the bill? Chair Roy.
This is another, simple, straightforward bill. So is the one we're going to do next, I assume. And I believe all the Republicans are yes, so I don't think we're going to need a roll call vote.
Okay. Are there any noes on the bill? Oh, Representative Allen, I'm sorry. You're here. Would you like to speak on your bill, sir?
No, sure, thank you. I appreciate you bringing this up. This is a simple land conveyance bill. The reason behind this is a little bit unique. There was a water line break in one of the facilities there that supports our veterans, and in rebuilding that, they are offering more services, so they need some additional parking. So thus, we need to do this to be able to provide that parking for our veterans, to be able to have the services provided to their right there at the county. So appreciate an affirmative vote today. Thank you.
Thank you. And sorry, I looking right at you and didn't see you. So yeah, thank you. Are there any negative votes on the bill? Okay, seeing none, the bill will be reported. Thank you. Next, we have House Bill 553 by Representative Davidson. Printers number 554. Staff will read a summary of the bill.
Authorizes DGS with the approval of the governor to grant and convey to Susquehanna Regional Transportation Authority approximately 2.857 acres and improvements in the city of Harrisburg, Dauphin County.
Okay, so the question is, will the committee report the bill? The chair recognizes Representative Davidson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, this is a land transfer bill, fairly straightforward. But, in this context, I think much like Representative Alex, there's more to the story than simply the conveyance of land. In this instance, our transit authority here in central Pennsylvania, Rapid Transit, is building a new maintenance facility. And there's a portion of land as a part of the project that is owned by the Commonwealth. This is supported by DGS and PennDOT, but really this is going to benefit transit riders in a variety of counties in central Pennsylvania up the Susquehanna River Valley, as well as create safer working conditions for the staff there at the maintenance facility. So I ask the members for an affirmative vote. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. And we have been joined by Representative Fink. There is an amendment to the bill, and I will be offering Amendment A00694. Will the committee agree to the amendment? Staff, you want to?
The amendment creates an omnibus land conveyance by amending the two previous bills into this bill.
Okay, is there discussion? Anyone?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say this is an agreed to amendment. I support it and look forward to fostering these land transfers over in the land of the Senate. Thank you.
Okay, those in favor of the amendment will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are there any negative votes to the amendment? Okay, seeing none, we don't need the roll. Thank you very much. The amendment is agreed to, and the question recurs, will the committee report the bill as amended? Is there any discussion on the bill going forward? Okay. If not, those in favor of reporting the bill as amended, are there any negative votes? Okay. Seeing none, the bill as amended will be reported. Thank you. Okay, moving on. House Bill 280. Representative Solomon, is he with us? No. Okay, I call up House Bill 280, printers number 223. Could you please read a summary of the bill?
House Bill 280 by Representative Solomon permits unenrolled electors to vote for the nomination of candidates for public office in each primary.
Okay, is there discussion? Okay, Representative Diamond.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do want to preface my comments on this particular bill by reminding folks that I was a registered independent voter for the first half of my adult life. And when I talk to independent voters and I ask them, why are you registered as independent or non-affiliated, they give the same reasons that I had when I was registered as an independent. Either they despise both the major parties or the other parties, or they just don't fully identify with either party. They have a particular reason why they're registered independent, and that is a voluntary decision they made when they registered. I also wanted to let the folks who watch these hearings know that the entire purpose of primary elections was to bring the party nomination process out from behind closed-door, smoke-filled rooms so that the public, the Republicans and the Democrats, and whoever else qualifies as a major party, could hold that process more out in the open. There would be more transparency. I also want to remind folks that if you really think about it, the only legitimate purpose the Commonwealth has of noting our political affiliation is to determine which primary we can vote in. There is no other legitimate purpose for the Commonwealth to register our political affiliation. That's the only reason, is for participation in the party nomination process. Now, looking at the bill itself, I am certainly empathetic, with my history as a one-time independent voter, as to the prime sponsors' desire to include them in the electoral process. I'm certainly empathetic of that. But the bill itself, what it really does is it will give independent or non-affiliated voters a privilege which is much greater than that of anybody who's registered with any political party in Pennsylvania, in that they can just walk up to the polling place and say, today I'm a Democrat, or today I'm a Republican. When I, as a Republican, or anybody here as a Democrat, can't do that. If we want to do that, under this bill, we would have to change our party registration to independent. And by the way, that's free. You can do that for free in Pennsylvania up to 15 days before an election. You can make your mind up. I understand that voting in Pennsylvania is considered a right, but with all rights come responsibilities. And I think the responsibility of a voter is to determine, when the primary comes up, which side you're going to be voting on. And if you can't do that 15 days before an election, and by the way, again, an independent or non-affiliated voter, regardless of their apathy or hatred of both the major parties, they can go 15 days before a primary election online and change their party registration for free. We don't charge a dime for that. And then, they can just, they can vote in the primary, and on the primary, the moment after they vote, they can go home and go back online and change it back and go, I can wash my hands of the grime of the two major parties. They don't want anything to do with the two major parties, but for some reason, they want to help the two major parties nominate their candidates. I kind of don't understand that. That's one side of this. The other side of this is, I am not sure, and I'm glad the prime sponsor is here, and maybe he can speak to this, is what burden this is going to put on our counties. I sit on the Joint State Government Commission's Election Law Advisory Board, and we have many representatives of counties and election directors that I interact with. And what they tell us is, please, after Act 77, do things that makes our job easier. Do not complicate the process. This bill will complicate the process because, many folks don't know that, or they may not be aware, that every even-numbered year, when we have a primary election, it's not just a nominating process for public officials who are going to run in the general election. It is actually a final election for party membership on a county committee or a Republican or Democrat state committee. That's the final election. So what does that mean for our counties? They're going to have to figure out when they're, for counties that print ballots, they're going to have to double the number of ballots they organize, print, and mail out. If you look at almost every election in Pennsylvania, you see mistakes and errors that happen with printed ballots. Either misspellings or errors in candidates. You're doubling that burden. You're also doubling the cost of setting up that ballot. For those counties that are using some sort of electronic means of having a ballot, that's twice the amount of programming that's going to have to go in, because you're going to have to have a separate ballot for the Republicans who come in and then the independents who want to vote in the Republican primary. Then you're going to have another ballot for the Democrats who come in to vote and the independents who come in and want to vote the Democrat ballot. In addition, there's another process that's going to be happening with a form they have to fill out, and then if they're choosing to vote by mail, that really confuses that process. Look, our counties have asked us to simplify the election process. This bill, if enacted, will only make their burden even higher, and the risk of mistakes, mistakes end up disenfranchising voters. So for all these reasons, Madam Chair, I completely get why the prime sponsor is bringing this forward. But I really am going to fall back on the Commonwealth's interest here in recording our political affiliation. The only reason to do that is to determine which political primary we can participate in. There is no other legitimate purpose. Now, if you want to talk about eliminating the Commonwealth's ability to record that affiliation and then letting independent candidates and third-party candidates also participate in some sort of jungle primary that ends up with the top 2 finishers, regardless of their party affiliation, going on to the general election. That's an idea I think that we can have a conversation about, but it's got to be a much wider conversation than just here in this committee. That's got to be a big public effort to talk about, you know, the implications of that, what the implications would be on a presidential election, which is a multi-state election. But on this bill, Madam Chair, I totally get the emotional desire to have these folks included, but they made a voluntary choice to not participate in the party process, and to give them a privilege which is much greater than those who are registered Republican, Democrat, or Libertarian, or Green, or Constitution Party, or even Bull Moose Party for that matter, to offer them that privilege because they made the voluntary choice to not participate when they can change their mind up to 15 days before an election for free. Again, it's free. You can wash your hands of the dirt of the 2 major parties immediately after you vote in their primary. I think that's a bad idea, especially because it's going to really make the burden on our counties a lot higher. So with that, Madam Chair, I will yield the microphone and just say that I think I'll be voting no on this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. So, we have been joined by Representatives Howard and Genst and Probst, and we are online with Representatives Inglis, Brennan, and Kazim. And in the meantime, we have been joined by the prime sponsor, and Representative Howard has joined us as well. We are now joined by the prime sponsor, and so if you would like to say a few words about your bill.
Thank you, Chair Hill Evans. Thank you, Chair Roy, for bringing this bill up for consideration, and to, of course, the staff, Nick and Michael. I know how hard you guys work. I'm shocked that Rep. Diamond is voting against the bill. I thought that build-up might have gone a different direction. And I always love a good Bull Moose Party reference before noon. That was a good one. Let's start at why I am here, and I think why we are all here to consider this bill, which is we were put here to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars. That is the reason that this bill is before us. We're going to have an election very soon, a judicial election, where typically voter turnout is very low. In precincts in Northeast Philadelphia, we may get below 10% turnout. All of those independents, by the way, the fastest growing party in Pennsylvania are independent voters. Now almost 16%. Those who are deciding not to affiliate with the major parties, and highest amongst those nearly 16% are veterans and young folks. Those veterans are coming out on Election Day, and they are going to see the machinery in operation of our election system. They are paying for the judge of elections, for the clerks, for the inspectors, for the machine operators. They're paying for your election commissioners. And what do we do in Pennsylvania? We say you cannot vote. My friend Rep. Diamond talks about voting being a right, and then goes on to express other sentiment. My colleagues, the discussion ends right there. Voting is a right, transcending every other consideration in this legislation, and every Pennsylvanian deserves, regardless of their choice of party or to unaffiliate with the 2 major parties, they deserve to vote. 2,500 to 5,000 voters in each of your districts are registered independent. And this vote today is either empowering them or telling those taxpayers, we'll take your money every single year, dole it out, give it out, prop up the election system, but you get no say in the future of your own politics, your own vision for Pennsylvania. Because as everyone knows here, 90% of elections are determined in the primary. So for most of us who are talking to voters, independents will never have a say in their chosen representatives, either state rep or state senator, 90% of our districts. So what do we get if we say yes? By the way, Representative Diamond, I love the debate and love the discussion. 40 other states have done this. This is not the new shiny thing on the block. 40 other states have either a fully open primary, not what I'm suggesting, or a semi-open primary, which is what this is. So what do we get? We bring in those veterans. If you vote yes, you say yes to veterans actually voting in the primary system. You bring in young people. If you vote yes, you bring in the next generation of people to vote in Pennsylvania. And what does that mean? They're going to get civically engaged. They're going to vote in your general. They're going to be people you can rely on to create a civic fabric in your community. What you also get is new, fresh perspectives. I don't think anyone here believes that only Democrats and Republicans have all of the answers for tax policy, business development, education, health care. I don't think anyone here believes in that. So now we get to reach into this well of knowledge, up to 5,000 people per district, and say, we want you to be part of the process. Let's finally do this. Let's vote yes to actually honoring the commitment we make to every Pennsylvanian to honor every single tax dollar they spend, including those dollars that go to propping up, creating the election system in Pennsylvania. Thank you, Chair.
You are welcome. We have Representative Kenyatta and then Representative Probst before we go to the chair.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, and I want to thank the prime sponsor for his partnership. I'm proud to be the co-prime on this. This is a part of a whole package of bills that we have, all of which I know the great chair would love to bring up each and every one of them. But let me just say on this bill, for me, this is really about two things. First, it's about freedom, and then secondly, it's about fairness. You know, in this country, and the gentleman from Lebanon County spoke to it, as a former independent, I will tell you, as a registered Democrat, I am no stranger to being deeply frustrated with both major political parties. And there are some people that feel that frustration or that misalignment in terms of their values so deeply that they make a conscious choice to not register with either party. And in a country that is built on the freedom of choice, we ought to respect that, and not just respect that in word, but respect that freedom of choice in deed, respect it in terms of what we do. And so if somebody can be registered as an independent, if we respect that choice, then we should not be doing things or allowing things to occur that effectively disenfranchise them as it relates to particularly things that happen locally. We all understand, and statewide elections, even in some state level elections, you may be in more of a purplish district where your vote really will matter in the general election. And that's true of many people in this room. You have to speak to everybody to get back to this building. But particularly at the local level, the primary is the election. The primary is the election, and we all know that. That is true in most cities in this Commonwealth. That is true in most townships. That's true in most municipalities. We know it. And so I don't know how on a pure basis of fairness we can say that it's fair for 16, 10, 25% of people in a community to have no say over who's going to hire the police chief where they live, over who's going to decide when and how their trash gets picked up, have any way to really weigh in on whether or not people are getting the snow moved at the appropriate speed. All of the basic, non-hyperbolic, non-even deeply partisan issues that are debated at the state and federal level. At the local level, that's where government really, where the rubber really hits the road. And people deserve the opportunity to be able to weigh in on who represents them in these ways that are deeply personal and that matter in profound respects as it connects to their quality of life. And so, listen, obviously I'm registered in a party, which I'm reminded of, but I'm reminded, Russ, don't worry about it. But at the end of the day, to all of those independent voters, I think that this vote today is about saying you deserve to participate fully in this democracy as well. And you don't have to join my group or join another group to have your fundamental freedom to vote in the fairness that the vote implies to create that equality among all citizens. Independent voters shouldn't be treated like second-class citizens in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and nowhere in this country. And as somebody who's deeply partisan, I am for this bill because it is about freedom, because it is about fairness. And so I'm going to be a yes and encourage folks on both sides of the aisle to do the same.
Thank you. We have Rep. Probst, then Rep. Barger, Rep. Webster, then Rep. Banta.
So I'd like to thank the maker of the bill, and I'm definitely going to be a yes on it, although I wish it even went further. So one of the things that the chair and the sponsor of the bill brought up was the number of independents in all of our communities. I mean, I think there's well over 25% in my district alone. And when we go to a general election, they have a say of both people. Frank Burns, myself, many people sitting in this room, they went Donald Trump, Tara Probst, Republican, Republican, Republican. A lot of Republicans probably had many, many Democrats, and then Russ Diamond back over to the Democrats because they know you, they like you, you must be doing a good job, right? So it happens in the general election now. You are able to vote for whoever you want. Doesn't matter what party you are. And we've all experienced Democrats crossing over, voting for a Republican, Republicans crossing over, voting for a Democrat, whether it's a local school board, a borough council, a county commissioner. We already do this. Why can't we already just do this in the primary and then have the actual people that the people want in office to be there? It's still going to say Tara Probst, Democrat, and whoever my opponent is, Republican. But I think it should be a completely open primary, because if you're a true independent, that means that you could love Tara Probst. Notice how I didn't say hate Tara Probst. You could love Tara Probst, but you could hate my Democratic county commissioner. And yeah, well, sounds like me, doesn't it? So not that I hate my Democratic county commissioner, but anyway, my point is that it's just so, and I think of my 18-year-old son. He just registered. He's like, I'm independent. And what does he do? I'm not going to tell you what side of the aisle he picked, but he goes and he writes other people in. He doesn't even pick the candidate because he wants this candidate here, and because he's in the community, he knows people, and it's just dumb. Like, why can't he just have a choice of everybody? He's a true independent, my son, and that's how 18-year-old boys are today. They do what they want to do, I guess, but he obviously didn't listen to his mother. But anyway, to land this plane, Russ, I'm going to have a little mini plane, not like your jet that kept going. But But in all sincerity, I really do believe that this bill is a great start, but I really don't even think it goes far enough. I think every single voice should be heard in a primary, in a general, and when you talk about the cost of it, we put everybody on the general election. Why can't we just put everybody on a primary and come on in and vote? It doesn't, pick your poison, pick your candidate, because people are sick of the two-party system. Thank you.
Thank you. Rep. Barger?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to point out that for clarification, two things. Number one, independents are not the fastest growing party in this state because they're not a party by law. They're not a party. There are only two parties by law in this state. Now, they may be the fastest growing group. Are there more than two political parties in this? Are they classified as parties?
Representative Barger, yes. So the Department of State classifies parties in a number of ways, and this is a great point. I'm glad you brought it up because it further really lifts up how we treat people who don't affiliate in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. There are the two major parties, Democrat, Republican, and it's determined by the vote share
So
in the prior
are called what?
general. They're called minor parties. So you have Libertarian, Green. They are parties.
There is a difference because there's different rules for these two different groups. You can use whatever word you want, but if there are different rules for the major parties than there are for the minor parties, and to say that these minor parties are the fastest, they're not the same. So this is, to me, is a clarification. Like there is a growing group of people who don't affiliate with parties. I agree with that. There's no doubt about that. But to me, to say that this is kind of like a organized third party is not accurate, in my opinion.
Well, sure.
Maybe that's semantics, and I don't want to argue semantics, but there is a more important, I think, point that ought to be made, and I think Rep. Probst, you hit the nail on the head just now. You did, man. Like that was like, and as you were speaking, I'm thinking, you know what? She's right. This isn't about freedom. This isn't about freedom at all. This isn't about freedom in a municipal election. Not at all. If it was, if that's what the goal was, you would be doing what Rep. Probst suggested, and that's a totally open primary, because this law only gives independents a choice in their municipal elections. Not if you are in the minority major party, right? In my district, if you are a Democrat, you have zero say in the municipal primary. Nothing. And so if this truly was about freedom and empowering our voters in the municipal primaries, which you are correct, sir, is like for many communities, maybe most, probably close to all, the election is the primary. Well, if what we really want to do is enfranchise voters in the municipal primary, then everybody should be allowed to vote. But this bill does not do that. This only gives that privilege, as my colleague Russ Steinman pointed out, to a smaller class of people, the independents. So I don't think it's something of a non sequitur to say that this is about freedom and empowering people in municipal elections, because it isn't. It's about empowering a small group of people in municipal elections. Everybody else has the same choice that everyone has right now, which is if you want to have a voice in your municipal election, do the very difficult and expensive work of registering with the dominant party in your district, in your county, and then you have a say. If you don't want to do that, then you have no say. That's the rule of law right now. So I don't know that I agree with the sentiment that this is about free and fair elections for everybody in the municipal primary. If it were, this would be, as Rep. Probst pointed out, a totally open primary, which actually would accomplish that goal. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Rep. Webster?
Yeah. Well, good morning, and thank you, Chairwoman, for a couple of brief comments. The first one, I think, for my vote, yes, on this bill, is personal and somewhat emotional. But I'll step back and point out that as a military veteran, for our military members and for the veterans in the community, most of us were independent voters at some point for a very real reason, and that is we feel very deeply that our duty to the country represents every American. We represent all Americans, and the current process for primaries excludes many military members and veterans from voting in the primary. And for that reason alone, I believe that the primary needs to be more open and that military members and veterans who very strongly support everyone in the United States has the right to vote in a primary. So that's sort of the top level for me. And I think I've spent a lot of time thinking about many of the things that our colleagues have mentioned today that drives my vote, overrides, if you will. The second part I'll say is sort of just administratively, because I've lived in 3 or 4 of those other 40 states that already do this. And it's sort of another personal statement, but my wife, Laura, has been a judge of elections, I think, in 6 different states as my military career led us around. And I can tell you that Virginia and Rhode Island and other states have no problem administratively figuring this out. So I will suggest that you look at another bill of mine. I think it's 857, which is full funding of services and county election services, because that could be the issue, right? We really do need to get people to vote, include our veterans, and we need to make sure that the counties can do that efficiently without the stress that currently involves. It's really expensive to run the election, and Harrisburg ought to be helping with that. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Rep. Banta?
Good morning. Thank you, Chairwoman. Thank you, Chairman Solomon, for thinking about your constituents, thinking about independent voters. Question for you. Does this bill, as it sits, give the power to independents to vote in either party, but yet those people in those parties cannot do the same?
Right, so, and Rep. Probst brought up a counter proposal, and mine is much more narrowly construed. The big difference is independents make a conscious decision not to affiliate with any major or minor party. That's why they're unaffiliated, or they've checked none and written in independent. This allows them to participate in the primary system. It's narrowly construed, protecting the integrity of their choice not to affiliate with any party.
But the other 2 parties do not have the same power that they do to vote in the other party, opposite party.
Those other individuals have made a party to affiliate with a particular political party in our Commonwealth.
So that's a no.
This is not a completely open primary, that's correct. This is not, like, for instance, what California has. I don't have an interest in going there.
Roger that. Yeah, I just want to be clear that Democrats can vote for Democrats and Republicans can vote for Republicans. But independents can vote for either side, which gives them more power. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Representative Schaefer and then Representative Davidson.
Yeah, I want to thank the author for bringing this bill forward. I think this is a challenge that we have in democracies across this country. As one of the speakers correctly pointed out, about 90% of the districts are basically decided in the primary. And what our goal should be is to have representatives that best represent sort of the middle there. But if we're not able to capture all voters in selecting the representative, it does create a problem. I'd really like to support this bill, but there's a couple issues I have, and I've been working on a similar sort of bill on my own, but haven't proposed it yet. Pennsylvania has a unique system. So I grew up in Virginia, so in Virginia, you don't even register by party. So you just walk in and anyone could just go in and say which party primary they want to vote for. Here in Pennsylvania, we do register by party, and we actually use primaries, and some of us have probably done this before, to run for state committee or run for party precinct committee person, party county committees. So one problem I have, and I don't know if we can correct this bill for it, would be you do not want people who are not a member of either party to be able to vote for things such as state committee for that party?
They cannot under the bill.
Oh, they cannot?
That's correct.
How would you separate?
So now are you in favor of the bill?
Well, I have some other things to do, but.
I answered the first thing,
well,
so
yeah, that's good.
you didn't know that was coming.
Well, maybe between
What's
now
the
and
next
floor
thing?
vote, I would. But the other thing, I do think there's going to be confusion. I've talked to a number of people, and there are a lot of people who are registered independent, and I'm choosing my words carefully here, right? Because this bill, you've outlined major parties and minor parties. I think a lot of people in my area do not, and probably throughout the Commonwealth, do not realize that independent is actually a political party. And so I think there's going to be a good bit of confusion where people are going to say, I'm registered independent, I should now be able to vote, yet they're not nonpartisan. This bill establishes a nonpartisan, not a independent. And so I think even the language here has been a little bit confusing around that.
So under the terms of the bill, unenrolled elector is defined in two main ways. Number one, if you check unaffiliated on the voter registration form, or you check it online, or you write, you check none, and in that little box, you write independent or unaffiliated. So by encompassing both, you get to 1.4 million Pennsylvanians. So that is accommodated under the terms of the bill.
But I do think there is maybe still is an independent party of Pennsylvania, like a legally entity that was.
No, there is not.
Okay, well, the other aspect that I would like to see done is how you handle, we have the unique situation coming up where people are cross-filing for school boards, for district magistrates, for local county judges, which is interesting because in this bill, the way I understand it, Democrats and Republicans and non-affiliated voters would be able to vote in those elections, but then anyone who is registered a Libertarian, Green Party, Constitution Party, you would actually be disenfranchising 6%. Like 94% of Pennsylvania voters would be able to vote for, say, your school board candidates, but the other 6% would not be able to vote for your local judicial or your school board candidates in these cross-filing races. Is that correct?
The major and minor parties have made a decision that they're affiliating. That's the whole thrust of the bill. I understand you're trying to tease out a different framework and context. That's not neither the intent nor the language in this bill. It is purely to allow people who decide not to affiliate with any parties to participate in the democratic process and to allow their taxpayers to actually matter in propping up the voting system in Pennsylvania.
No, I understand. But I guess the effect of that would be that in this, like in municipal primary coming up, if we have big school board elections in my area, if you were registered as a Constitution or Green Party or Libertarian, you would not be able to vote in the primary, yet everyone else would. That's the effect.
You would need a candidate. That's why you have a Libertarian Party. You have internal procedures that are outlined in order to choose a Libertarian candidate for school board, and then you can vote for that particular candidate.
And then last, just question, for a lot of us to go through the process, we have to get petitions to get on the ballot. Would it still just be the party that you belong to get on that ballot?
Yes, of course. So we're not changing the dynamics of the party system. We are just honoring the choice that 1.4 million Pennsylvanians have made not to affiliate, mostly veterans and young people across the Commonwealth.
Thank you.
Rep. Davidson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wasn't going to speak today, but I've really been enjoying this conversation we've been having in committee. So I figured I'd chime in. Look, the North Star that I kind of hold in the election code space is increasing voter participation. I think that's something that we probably all share, that, when we think about the election code space and that portion of the law, our goal should be to expand access to the ballot and expand participation from our neighbors. And so for me, this bill isn't the bill that I wrote. It's the bill that the good gentleman from Philadelphia wrote. And on its merits, it seems to be opening the door to our polling locations to 1.4 million Pennsylvanians, when today that door is closed. So while there's been discussion of other methods or small percentages of minor party individuals who might not be encompassed in this legislation, or other more expansive proposals like jungle primaries, which came up from a number of us, the product in front of us today would allow 1.4 million Pennsylvanians to participate in our primaries. And on net, for me, that checks the box for going towards that North Star and allowing more of our neighbors to participate in our elections in the Commonwealth. And for me, while, let's not let perfect be the enemy of the good, that is enough for me. So I will absolutely be a yes vote on this bill, and I thank the gentleman for his careful preparation and thought that he put into the bill, and I thank him for being with us today.
Okay, and now we're going to go to Chair Roy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The bill, I think, is kind of weird. So under the bill, well, I mean, it's no. If this became law, Republicans could only vote in Republican primaries. Democrats could only vote in Democratic primaries, but independents could choose to vote in the Republican primary or the Democratic primary. So that's just kind of weird, in my opinion. One thing that a lot of people, I just want to clarify something else too, that any political group can become recognized as a political party. The current two political parties in Pennsylvania are Republican and Democratic, but if 2% of the voters pick somebody from the Green Party or Libertarian Party or anything like that, in a statewide election, there has to be at least 10 different counties involved. They become a political party. So last fall, that almost happened. The Libertarian candidate for state treasurer had 1.45% of the vote. If that candidate would have had 2% of the vote, the primary next week, there would be Libertarian candidates on the ballot. So I just wanted to clarify that there's nothing. Sometimes people say, taxpayers shouldn't be paying just for Republican and Democratic primaries. They're not. Anybody can become a political party. Something else I want to mention is most people are registered, the vast majority are registered as Republican or Democrat. Back in 2010, that's how far back we looked, 11.7% of voters were independent. It has grown, but just barely. It's grown about 5% is all in 15 years. Now it's about 12.3%. So statistically, that's not really that much of a difference. It's basically flat when you look at it. Now, one other thing about this bill that's kind of weird, in my opinion, is if somebody's trying to run in a primary, there's a lot of campaigns out there, including my own when I first ran. My own still to this day, pretty much. But like in my county, I live in Crawford County, there's about 14,000 Democrats. So if somebody wanted to run in a Democratic primary, they'd have to campaign to 14,000 people. But in Crawford County, we have about 4,700 independents. They'd also have to campaign to those 4,700 people. Well, that just makes it not cost effective for a lot of low budget campaigns. And wealthier candidates that have more money, people that can do better fundraising would do better under this bill. Candidates of limited means, candidates that aren't very good at raising money wouldn't do as well. And a lot of people think there's too much money in politics already. Well, if this became law, it would require even more money to be in politics because the primaries would become much more expensive. So just lastly, I just want to say that if people choose to be in one of the parties or choose to be independent, that's their choice. But I just don't think they can have it both ways. If somebody insists they want to vote in a primary, currently they should be registering as a Republican or a Democrat. If Libertarians or Green parties or some other party became an official political party rather than a political body, that would be a choice too. But if somebody does not want to vote in primaries, they can register as independent. I just don't think the bill is a good bill, and I urge a no vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome to the new State Government Committee, where we can have lively discussions and differences of opinion and still come up with a good vote. So I want to thank the prime sponsor of the bill for being willing to come and speak to us and explain more about your bill. I think that concludes all discussion. So those in favor of reporting the bill will vote yes. Those opposed, no. Sonia, will you please call the roll?
Chair Hill Evans,
Yes.
Representatives Boyd,
Designation yes.
Brennan,
Designation yes.
Davidson,
Yes.
Green, Genst, Howard, Inglis,
Designation yes.
Kenyatta, Probst, Sanchez,
Yes.
Schusterman,
Designation yes.
Waxman, Webster,
Yes.
Chair Roy,
No.
Representatives Banta, Barger, Bonner, Brown,
No by designation.
Diamond, Fink, Kozak,
No by designation.
Shalaba,
No by designation.
Schaefer,
No by designation.
Walsh, Weeknecht. The motion passes.
Thank you, and the bill will be reported. Next up, thank you, Chair Solomon, for joining us. The chair calls up House Bill 1018, printers number 1098. Nick, would you please read a summary of the bill?
House Bill 1018 by Chairman Burns amends the Steel Products Procurement Act to require the use of American-made steel products in projects that receive public funding or tax incentives from a public agency, and applies to any subcontracts as well.
So the question is, will the committee report the bill? And with that, I recognize Chair Burns, who is the sponsor of the bill.
Thank you, Chairwoman Evans and Chairman Rowe, for considering House Bill 1018. This bill is pretty straightforward. It just requires American-made steel be used on any projects that receive taxpayer funding. This bill passed committee last session 24-1, and I'm here today to ask for another affirmative vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on the bill? Rep. Davidson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, Chairman Burns, for joining us today and for bringing this bill. It's an important bill to the committee for our attention. I guess I'm just a little conflicted right now. I will be supporting the bill. I want to be very clear about that because I think it's a noble cause. But in my community here in central Pennsylvania, just about 2 weeks ago, the longest continuously operating steel mill in America was just announced that they were going to close the plant. And hundreds of steel workers here in the Harrisburg area, and in Steelton in particular, the birthplace of the steel industry in America, you know, those families are going to be searching for answers. And so I guess my conflict comes from not the bill itself or the text that's been provided to us, but just more broadly about, you know, the state of our economy. And I am worried about the impacts of some of the economic choices coming out of Washington today and our ability to continue to produce this steel in America, which should be a national priority for us. So I wanted to thank the member of the bill, the maker of the bill. This is a very important issue. We should all be supporting this bill. And I sincerely hope that at the national level, we are building an economy that does keep these plants open, that does keep families in family-sustaining jobs and keeps communities whole, and turns around the decline in many parts of the Commonwealth that we've seen in this industry. So I want to thank the maker of the bill, and thank you, Madam Chair. It will be an affirmative vote.
Chair Roy?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the gentleman for offering the bill. It's a good bill. We all like steel that's made in America, and I believe all the Republicans are going to be yes. So I don't think you need a roll call.
Okay. Is that it? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Are there any negative votes on the bill? Okay, seeing none, thank you for joining us, Chair Burns, and the bill will be reported. Thank you. We have House Bill, I'm calling up House Bill 1084, printer's number 1202. I don't see Andrew. Okay, would you please read a summary of the bill, Nick?
House Bill 1084 by Representative McAndrew exempts a volunteer fire company from the fee when filing articles of incorporation.
Okay, and I do not see Representative McAndrew with us. So is there discussion on the bill? Okay. Okay, Chair Roy?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the gentleman for offering the bill. I think it's a well-intended thing, and I'm going to vote yes. I think everybody's going to vote yes. But it's $125. I guess $125 is better than zero, but a fire engine costs about $1 million. To equip one firefighter costs about $20,000. So if somebody would start a new volunteer fire department today, if they had one firefighter and one fire engine, it'd be $1,020,000 plus another $125 for this. So if we pass this, we can save them $125. So I'm going to support the bill. But I think we need to do a lot more to help the volunteer fire departments. Thank you.
I totally agree with that. Okay, is there any other discussion on the bill? Are there any negative votes on the bill? Okay, hearing none, the bill will be reported. Next, we have House Bill 1348 by Representative Kazim. The chair calls up House Bill 1348, printer's number 1536. Nick, would you please read a summary of the bill?
House Bill 1348 by Representative Kazim designates the first day of the Islamic lunar month as Eid al-Fitr Day in the Commonwealth.
Okay, the question is, will the committee report the bill? I recognize Representative Kazim, who is online. Would you like to speak on your bill?
Yes, thank you so much, Chairwoman. Okay. And also to the State Government Committee, thank you again and good morning. I am here to present to you, well, virtually, House Bill 1348, which is recognizing Eid al-Fitr as a known state holiday here. This bill specifically does not require or mandate employers to close their place of business. This is also a legislation that was brought last committee that passed and also passed on the House floor through bipartisanship. And recognizing this holiday in Pennsylvania, we really send a powerful message, just showing that our community here across the Commonwealth is built off of various cultures, faith, and traditions. And it's also crucial that our state calendar reflects this richness of this. For Eid al-Fitr, this is, a faith that is practiced worldwide across this country, and especially here in our Commonwealth, amongst different genders, different ethnic backgrounds, and it's also one of the largest faith-based groups here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So I believe that if we push this, we're really promoting unity and understanding that, demonstrating Pennsylvania's commitment to acknowledging and respecting everyone's belief and custom, and it also strengthens the community bonds and contributions to the vibrant tapestry of Pennsylvania. So recognizing this particular holiday also acknowledges the valuable contributions of the Muslim community to the Commonwealth's social, economic, and cultural fabric, and provides an opportunity to celebrate amongst our brothers and sisters and making Pennsylvania stronger as a state and as a nation. And again, I think I've already mentioned it, this is not mandating any employer to shut down their place of business, but this is recognizing that here in the Commonwealth that we do understand the tradition of many that, lives here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and also contribute to our state. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And thank you, Rep. Kazim. Is there discussion on the bill? Chair Roy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't support creating new holidays. There's already many more holidays that state employees don't go to work than the private sector offers. And I realize the language of the bill states that it would not be a paid holiday, but I think it would eventually become one if we add one, because at some point people would say, well, how come some official holidays are paid and some of them aren't, where you don't have to go to work? And I think we already have a problem with about a $5 billion deficit in the budget proposal. If we have another day that state employees are not at work, that's just going to cause more problems with paperwork getting processed and things like that. So I just don't think it's a good idea. But then on the actual language of the bill itself, it is kind of confusing. On page 2, lines 2 and 3 state, many Pennsylvanians celebrate Eid al-Fitr, and this important holiday deserves official recognition. Well, then down on lines 9 and 10, it says, nothing in this act shall be construed as requiring an employer to treat Eid al-Fitr as a legal holiday or official holiday. So lines 2 and 3 say it deserves to be have official recognition, but then line 10 says, not an official holiday. So the wording is kind of weird, I think, in the resolution, but I would urge a no vote. Excuse me, not resolution. This is an actual bill.
This
So
is a bill.
I urge a no vote on the bill.
Okay. Those in favor of reporting the bill? I'm sorry, Rep. Kazim?
Oh, yes, I just wanted to respond to Chairman. Thank you for your comments and your feedback. In regards to your conflicting concerns there, the reason why it says that we're recognizing is because we understand that this is a tradition that has been going on for a very long time across our Commonwealth. And this is probably about maybe the only faith-based group that had yet not been acknowledged for this worldwide tradition and festival for the breaking of the fast. But when I also mentioned about the legal holiday, that's because the bank holiday. So when we are talking about legal, we're also looking about federal holidays as well that is recognized, such as Christmas, where we do have all. So I'm basically saying that as far as the Commonwealth, we acknowledge that this is a holiday, but we also are saying that no, it does not need to be closed where it's going to be considered a paid holiday. So I do understand your concern, and I do believe that, like you said, many holidays, but this is, again, one of the largest faith-based group outside of Christianity and those that are Jewish or even Hindu that actually does practice across this country and across this Commonwealth. And I think we send a message that everyone is included, and we understand most of us in our communities have individuals that practice Ramadan. And I think it's important that when we voice for our constituents, we make sure we include all of our constituents. That's all. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Rep. Kazim. Those in favor of reporting the bill will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Sonia, please call the roll.
Chair Hill Evans?
Yes.
Representatives Boyd?
Designation, yes.
Brennan?
Designation, yes.
Davidson?
Designation, yes.
Green?
Designation, yes.
Genst? Yes. Howard? Yes. Inglis?
Designation, yes.
Kenyatta?
Designation, yes.
Probst? Yes. Sanchez? Yes. Schusterman?
Designation, yes.
Waxman?
Designation, yes.
Webster?
Yes.
Chair Roy?
No.
Representatives Banta? No. Barger?
No by designation.
Bonner?
Yes.
Brown?
No by designation.
Diamond?
No by designation.
Fink? Kozak?
No by designation.
Shalaba?
No by designation.
Schaefer?
No by designation.
Walsh?
No.
Weeknecht? The motion passes.
Thank you, and the bill will be reported. Next is House Bill 1428, printers number 1663. Nick, would you please read a summary of the bill?
House Bill 1428 by Representative Webster amends Title 24 of the Pennsylvania Consolidated Statutes to revise membership eligibility of the Public School Employees Retirement System, or PSERS, for new non-public employees from state-related organizations.
Question is, will the committee report the bill and recognize Rep. Webster, the prime sponsor of the bill?
Thanks, Chairwoman. Just a couple of quick comments. It's a simple bill in legal terms. It simply changes the definition of eligibility to affect a state-related organization that is not state employees. And since this is the Public School Employees Retirement System, it basically affects the School Board Association, whose members currently, under the definition, are eligible for PSERS retirement program and take advantage of that. The Public School Board Association would like to be sort of disincluded. And so this is their request so that future employees of the association who are not government employees would not be eligible for a government retirement system. It's that simple.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Chair Roy?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'd like to thank the gentleman for offering the bill. Not having new employees go into the pension, that's a good part of the bill. I like that part. The problem I have with the bill, we have a $40 billion unfunded liability in the PSERS system, and every employer that belongs to the PSERS system is responsible for their proportional share of the unfunded liability. The Independent Fiscal Office note from last session calculated that the PA School Board Association, their share of the unfunded liability is $5.3 million. The language of this bill, the PA School Board Association would not have to pay the $5.3 million. Who would pay the $5.3 million? The 500 school districts. So this shifts their portion of the pension debt to the school districts. So the 500 school districts would have to cough up the $5.3 million. I would hope an amendment could be successful on the floor that would require the PA School Board Association to pay the withdrawal liability and not make school districts absorb that $5.3 million cost. So I will be a no, and I urge a no vote on the bill. Thank you.
Just a quick response to that. The unfunded liability in the system is created because we, as a legislature in years past, did not fund that portion of the employer. Not that the other, and in this case, singular employer didn't fund their section. This is a decision made by the legislature to create an unfunded liability, and it will fall to the legislature eventually to pay that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Those in favor of reporting the bill will vote yes. Those opposed will vote no. Sonia, please call the roll.
Chair Hill Evans?
Yes.
Representatives Boyd?
Designation yes.
Brennan?
Designation yes.
Davidson?
Designation yes.
Green?
Designation yes.
Genst? Howard? Inglis?
Designation yes.
Kenyatta?
Designation yes.
Probst? Sanchez?
Yes.
Schusterman?
Designation yes.
Waxman?
Designation yes.
Webster?
Yes.
Chair Roy?
No.
Representatives Banta?
No.
Barger?
No by designation.
Bonner?
No.
Brown?
No by designation.
Diamond?
No by designation.
Fink? Kozak?
No by designation.
Shalaba?
No by designation.
Schaefer?
No by designation.
Walsh?
No.
Weeknecht? The motion passes.
And the bill will be reported. And the last item on the agenda is House Resolution 230. I call up House Resolution 230, printers number 1626. Nick, please read a summary of the resolution.
House Resolution 230 by Chairwoman Hill Evans designates the week of September 15th through 21st, 2025 as Diaper Need Awareness Week in Pennsylvania.
This is something that we have been doing since I've been in the House. So this is the 9th year, and it started before then with Representative Youngblood. And it's always an honor for me to have my name attached to a cause that helps not just babies, but families and the elderly as well, by bringing up this resolution and then collecting products that help those residents who are in need. So I hope that everybody will vote yes on this resolution. Thank you. Is there any discussion? Representative Webster.
Just a quick comment. In Montgomery County and surrounding communities, we have a small group called Mitzvah Circle, and last year they delivered over 11 million diapers to families in our area. The need is real, and as my brother likes to say, babies love those things, so we should do this.
Yes. Chair Roy?
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair.
Certainly.
I believe Representative Fink will be the only no, so I don't think we need to do a roll call unless you want to. Oh, you're a no? Oh, okay. I guess we do have to do a roll call.
Roll call, yes.
I apologize, members.
Okay. So those in favor of reporting the resolution will vote yes. Those opposed, no. Sonia, please call the roll.
Chair Hill Evans.
Yes.
Representatives Boyd,
Designation yes.
Brennan,
Designation yes.
Davidson,
Designation yes.
Green,
Designation yes.
Genst, Howard, Inglis,
Designation yes.
Kenyatta,
Designation yes.
Probst, Sanchez, Schusterman,
Designation yes.
Waxman,
Designation yes.
Webster,
Yes.
Chair Roy,
Yes.
Representatives Banta,
No.
Barger,
Yes by designation.
Bonner,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes by designation.
Diamond,
Yes by designation.
Fink, Kozak,
Yes. Wait a second. Yes by designation.
Shalaba,
Yes by designation.
Schaefer,
Yes by designation.
Walsh, Weeknecht. Motion passes.
Thank you, and the resolution will be reported. And that concludes the agenda for State Government Committee. Thank you, everyone, for coming and for such lively discussion. Thank you. We'll see you on the floor.